Salaries need to be paid, temples need to be built and maintained, and evangelizing campaigns need to be financed. These are some of the main concerns for most organized religions today. So in order for them to come up with the financial support needed, they teach that tithing, or giving a tenth of one's gross income, is a biblical requirement. They also imply that not tithing will be considered embezzlement. Most Christians today agree that giving should be a part of Christian worship. But is tithing really a requirement for Christians today? The requirement to tithe was part of the Mosaic law that Jehovah gave to the 12 tribes of Israel more than 3,500 years ago. That law decreed that a tenth of their produce, including fruit trees, increase in cattle, be given to the tribes of Levi to support their service at the tabernacle. Now, was Jehovah asking too much of them? I invite you to turn your Bibles into Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, and we'll see what Jehovah said to those words from Israelites. That's Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. And it reads, "Bring the entire tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house, and test me out, please, in this regard," Jehovah of armies says, "to see whether I will not open up to you the floodgates of the heavens, and pour out on you a blessing until there is nothing lacking." So as they faithfully obeyed Jehovah, he promised them that this commandment would not be too difficult and that they would have an abundant harvest. Although it's true that God never changes, his requirements sometimes do. Turn your Bibles to Colossians chapter 2, verse 13 and 14, and we'll see why there's a change in the requirement to tithe. That's Colossians chapter 2, verse 13 and 14. "Furthermore, though you were dead in your trespasses and in the uncircumcised state of your flesh, God made you alive together with him. He kindly forgave us all our trespasses and erased the handwritten document that consisted of decrees and was in opposition to us. He has taken it out of the way by nailing it to the torture stake." So Jesus' sacrificial death erased and freed us from the handwritten documents or the Mosaic law, which included the requirement to tithe. So now that we know that true Christians are no longer under the obligation to tithe, what kind of offering should we bring into Jehovah's storehouse today? Today, tithing has a symbolic meaning. Though we're not obligated to present tithes as was stated under the Mosaic law, God still expects us to give offerings of a spiritual kind. Once we dedicate our lives to Jehovah through water baptism, from that time forward, we promise that all we have belongs to him. Even so, Jehovah lovingly allows us to choose a portion of what we have to use in his service. The time, energy, and resources that we use in the kingdom preaching work represents our voluntary offerings in Jehovah's service. Additionally, attending Christian meetings, visiting sick and elderly fellow believers, and financially supporting the kingdom work is also included in our voluntary offerings to Jehovah. So whatever our circumstances allow or whatever our heart compels us to do in Jehovah's service, this represents the portion that is ours that we bring to Jehovah's storehouse. So how do we go about bringing the entire tithe into the storehouse today? Well, when we study the Bible and come to an accurate knowledge of Bible truth, eventually we're moved to dedicate our lives to Jehovah, and we symbolize it through water baptism. Then, as baptized servants of Jehovah, he allows us to give back to him as much time and possessions that we desire to. And how does it make Jehovah feel when we sacrifice our time and material possessions for his worship? Well, let's turn to our last scripture found at Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16, and let's see how Jehovah feels about our voluntary offerings we make to him. It's Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16. And it reads, "Moreover, do not forget to do good and to share what you have with others, for God is well pleased with such sacrifices." So we see here that our spiritual and material offerings are always well-pleasing and acceptable to Jehovah. And it warms his heart when we do so. So for those here who are not yet baptized, continue to study his word, and your love for him will continue to grow as you work towards baptism. And as for those who are already baptized, whether you're young or young at heart, give back to Jehovah the love that he extended towards you, and let us all continue to bring our own entire tithe into the storehouse today.